Hello everyone, it's Spawn Point and today is the day. We're unboxing and getting hands-on with the brand new Nintendo Switch 2. And we're going to cover everything that you need to know, including new features like the magnetic Joy-Cons, 4K HDR, new accessories, games, and how it plays in both handheld and docked mode. So if you're thinking of grabbing one of these for yourself, hopefully I will answer all of your questions in this video. Oh, and thank you to Spigen for sponsoring a portion of today's video, which I have linked to all of their accessories down below. Right, so here's the box that it comes in with the Switch 2 branding and images on both the front and the back of the packaging. But let's get this opened up and see what's inside. Okay, so we've got the main console and the two Joy-Con controllers, which we'll take a closer look at in a minute. Then under this, we've got the other accessories. This includes the Joy-Con grip, which we'll be able to slide our Joy-Cons in later, a USB-C cable and a plug with a USB-C port on the back. And then here's the new and upgraded dock, and straight away you can see how different this looks to the previous version. It's a lot more rounded and is also a lot thicker back here, which is down to the fact that it now has a fan built in for keeping the Switch 2 cool while gaming. And inside here it contains an HDMI cable for connecting it to your TV or monitor and two Joy-Con straps. And if you've gone for the Mario Kart World bundle, you'll also get a game code included where you can download the game, as there's no physical game in the box. And here it is, the brand new Switch 2 console. And you know what, on first impressions, this does look and feel really nice. I mean, I did get hands-on with it back in April during the public event in London, but seeing it again now in my own house, this looks so clean. I'm already a massive fan of the full matte black design that they've gone for, with just a pop of colour around the thumbsticks. This actually feels a little more premium and grown up this time, and sort of puts it in line with the other handhelds on the market. But it is definitely worth mentioning that this is noticeably larger than the previous model. I will do a proper side-by-side later in today's video, but as a quick reference now, this is how it compares to the original launch day Switch, and you can see just how much bigger the new one is. Now that is mostly down to the new screen, as we have gone from 6.2 inches to 7.9 inches this time, which is a huge step up. But let's have a quick look around at the different buttons on the console. So looking across the top, we have the game card slot and a new USB-C port, so you can charge it from the top or the bottom now. Then there's the microphone, volume buttons and the power button. And flipping it over, we've got another USB-C port down here for charging it or connecting it to the dock. And around the back, we have the Switch 2 logo and the new kickstand. And this is what you'll use for playing it in tabletop mode, as it pulls out and you'll be able to tilt it however you'd like. And if you do pop this out, you'll notice there is a micro SD card slot under here for expanding your storage. Now at the moment, the only colour that you can buy the Switch 2 in is black. Now I imagine we'll get more choices in a couple of years, but until then, here is a cool way to change the colour. So these are the Nano Pop cases from Spigen. We've got Black Sesame, Blueberry Navy, and my favourite, the Special Edition, which gives us these classic neon colours. So these simply clip around both the Joy-Cons and the console to give a nice pop of colour and protection at the same time. It also works with the dock and kickstand, so you do not need to remove them when you're using it. Now I think the Blueberry Navy is certainly a bold choice. The Black Sesame is probably the most understated, but seriously, this Special Edition one is my favourite. I'm loving the OG colours on here. Now when it comes to setting it up, it's pretty straightforward. The first thing you'll need to do is connect the two Joy-Cons. These simply line up and snap into place with the magnets. Then press and hold the power button on the top and run through the on-screen instructions, like choosing your language and agreeing to the terms and conditions. Now if you've got an original Switch console, this is where you can choose to transfer your data over to the new console. I'm not going to do that today, but this is a useful way to copy your game saves over if you need to. And then once you've done all of that, we are good to go. And the first thing we're going to do is start by installing some new games. So here are a few of the games that I've got, including Mario Kart World, a couple of Zelda games, and Super Mario Party. I'll explain later how you can upgrade some of these games to Switch 2 games. Okay, so I mentioned it comes with a new larger 7.9 inch screen, which is a really nice step up from the previous one in terms of size. Well, it's also a 1080p 120Hz screen that supports VRR and HDR. So every game that I've played on this has genuinely looked awesome. It's vibrant, it's crystal clear, it's smooth, and it's bright. Now it's not an OLED though, as this is an LCD screen, but this is extremely good for a non-OLED screen. I know one of the concerns of having an LCD screen over an OLED are the black levels. So obviously the black levels are not going to be jet black like you get on an OLED, but as you can see here, they are still pretty good. I guess it depends on the environment that you're playing it in, because in a well-lit room or outside, this is going to look better than it will do at night. The viewing angles are decent as well, so as you move it around you can still see what's on your screen, although you obviously lose a little bit of contrast and colour. Of course you're going to get some reflections as it's still a glossy screen, but it looks great. I would say the only real downside on this screen, other than it not being an OLED, are the bezels aren't quite as thin or small as I'd have hoped. Now Nintendo have said there is a screen protector already installed, and not to remove it. But I'm still going to add one of these on top. So this is an easy fit screen protector which does exactly what it says. So it comes with this hard case that you can simply pop over the top of the screen, slide your finger over, wait for 30 seconds and remove. Then boom, we have got this perfect bubble-free screen that should help me keeping it scratch-free. Okay, then we have the Joy-Cons, which fortunately look very similar, where the button layout and shape of these could pass as an original Joy-Con. But it's only when you put them side by side do you notice these are once again noticeably larger. Even the thumbsticks are larger this time, which makes them feel a little more normal now. They feel more like other controller thumbsticks rather than too small. Okay, then we've got the triggers across the top are slightly bigger as well, which again makes them feel more like a proper trigger rather than just a button. And then on the front is the new C button, which is a dedicated chat button to open up the game chat menu. I'm going to cover this in more detail later, but this is what it looks like when you press it. And as you've seen already, they have ditched the slide and click on the Joy-Cons and replaced them with magnets this time. And on first impressions, this is so much better. Not only does it make it easier to connect and disconnect them, it sounds incredibly satisfying. Now to install them, you just line them up and let the magnets do the pulling. And to remove them, you simply press this button around the back and pull. They will simply pop right off. And you can see here how by pressing the button it pushes the Joy-Cons off the console, so it's quite a clever little design. I'll be honest though, I was worried at first if the magnets would be strong enough to hold the controllers on, but from my normal gaming use, these are not going to come off. Of course, if you really wanted to pull them off without pressing the button first, well, you obviously could. And then looking on the inside of the Joy-Cons, it has a nice pop of colour to match the inside of the console, as well as larger SL and SR buttons. So if you are using them for 2-player mode, you'll be able to easily press these now as they look and feel like normal buttons. Oh, and another thing is the Joy-Con grip that we unboxed before. These can slide into that and turn it into a better controller. But just to clarify, there are no rear buttons on this grip. I read online there was some confusion, but you do not get those remappable buttons on the included Joy-Con grip. Now in terms of the games we can play on the Switch 2, we've got 3 different categories. We've got the native Switch 2 games like Mario Kart World, which I think will be a console seller, Fast Fusion and Donkey Kong Bonanza, which doesn't launch until July. Now these are the games that you can only play on the Switch 2, although there is not a huge library to pick from just yet. But then we have the remasters and ports, which are games that have been ported over from other consoles and then tweaked for the Switch 2. Now that's not a bad thing if you've only ever played on a Switch, as there are going to be loads of new games to play, like Cyberpunk, Hogwarts Legacy, Split Fiction and Star Wars Outlaws. There's also this other one that came out today, which is called Bravely Default Flying Fairy, which is an HD remaster for the Switch 2. And then we have some older Switch games which are getting remastered as well. So take Zelda Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. These are both available to buy on the Switch 2 for £65. However, I can upgrade both of these old versions on the store for just $7.99. Then when I insert my Switch cartridge, I can play the upgraded version instead. Now we also get almost the entire back catalogue of original Switch games to play on here too. So games like Mario Kart, Donkey Kong and Zelda will all work without issues. This means if you've got a library of either digital or physical Switch games like I have, you can simply migrate them over to the new console and you're good to go. Just to note though that not all games will work, so it's definitely worth checking out their full list on their website. And talking of physical games, the game cartridges themselves look like this. So other than the new logo, they are practically the same as the original game cartridges, so you can plug both the new and the old game straight into the card slot at the top. Oh, and as for storage, well the Switch 2 now comes with 256GB instead of the previous 32GB. That is huge and is literally 8 times more than before, so plenty of space for those new larger games. Now when it comes to playing on the Switch, there are of course 3 ways you can do this. There's handheld, tabletop and docked. For most of today I have been using it handheld, and I've got to start by saying this feels very well balanced. Now I was originally concerned it would feel noticeably heavier than the other Switches, especially with it being 100 grams more. But I think with the extra width it feels surprisingly similar. I would go as far as saying that this feels a little more ergonomic, especially with the thicker triggers and how they fit in my hands. Performance wise though, this thing has blown me away. Like, how are we playing Cyberpunk on a Switch console and it looks this good? Sure, it's not a PS5 Pro on RTX 5090, but using the new custom processor, this looks very impressive. Then we've also got the new Mario Kart, which looks incredible on this 1080p screen, and don't forget that it does support up to 120 FPS. I'm kind of hoping you can see how smooth and bright this looks, but seriously, this looks great in handheld mode. Then if you fancy kicking it back on the sofa and playing on the big screen, we have the docked mode, especially useful for playing local multiplayer or couch co-op games. But before I show you the new 4K mode on this, let's have a quick look around the actual dock first. So on the front we have the new Switch 2 logo, which looks clean. Then around the side we have 2 USB ports, and around the back we have this cover which we can remove to reveal more ports. So there's a USB-C port, an HDMI port, and a LAN port. And inside this bulky part here is the new fan, which should help with keeping the console cool while it's docked. Not a bad idea considering it's now running more power than before. Okay, so the biggest change with the new dock is it now supports a 4K resolution when it's connected to a compatible TV or monitor. So although the handheld screen maxes out at 1080p, you are able to get the full 4K resolution via the dock. And that is with HDR and up to 60 FPS at the same time. And I've got to say, this looks absolutely incredible. Now I mainly played Mario Kart World while it was docked, and this for me is the perfect game to play on the TV via multiplayer mode. And as you can see here, the quality of the image that we're getting on screen looks so good. Seeing this now, it doesn't even feel like I'm playing on a Switch. Like this could be a PS5 or an Xbox Series with how crystal clear this is. Honestly, being able to play this Switch in 4K alone is a huge benefit over the original Switch. But something I wanted to test out was, could we get 120 FPS if we drop the resolution down to 1440p instead of 4K? Well, the good news is this worked. So if you want 120 FPS while in docked mode, all you need to do is drop the resolution down to 1440p or lower and you'll get the full frame rate. Then there's the tabletop mode. So this is where you can remove the Joy-Cons and pull the kickstand out around the back and place it down on a table or a flat surface. Now to be honest, the kickstand does feel pretty flimsy when you pull it out, but once it's in place it's not going to go anywhere. It does however have quite a lot of range, so you can position it however you like, whether you want it stood upright or laying almost flat. You can do that pretty easily. And just quickly going back to the new Switch 2 games, I want to show you the Welcome Tour game as well. So this is the game that should have been included for free with every console, but is not, so I had to buy this for $7.99. Essentially, it's a glorified instruction manual as you can walk around this huge Switch 2 console, clicking on different elements and seeing how each part functions. Now there are some cool games in here though that you can challenge yourself and try to beat your PBs, and you can even see how the Joy-Cons work in certain tasks. But it is no Wii Sports, and I'm going to stand by my opinion that this should have been pre-installed for everybody to use. It is, however, a really cool way to show you one of the Joy-Con's biggest new features, and that's the mouse controls. So once you've removed the Joy-Cons from the console, you can place them face down on a table and use them like a computer mouse. And that's because on the inside of the Joy-Cons, you'll see it's got this tiny little sensor that tracks your movements. Now there is going to be a dedicated game coming out called Drag X Drive, but until then, the best way to test this out is in the Welcome Tour game. So here I'm using the Joy-Cons to move the cursor around on screen to avoid the bombs or the mines, and it is pretty impressive just how accurate this is. Like, it is pin sharp to my movements. I imagine we'll get even more games coming out in the future that will take advantage of this feature. In terms of the UI and navigating around the console, it is basically the same as we've had before. Yes, it looks cleaner and sharper now, but on the whole it is the same menus and UI that we're used to. That's not a bad thing if you liked the simple layout, but it would have been great to have seen a whole new UI and made it look and feel like a new console. Oh, and as for sound, we've obviously got speakers on here as well, so you don't need to use a headset if you'd rather not. But here's a quick speaker test just so you can hear it for yourself. And if you were looking for some Switch 2 accessories, here are a few that I've picked up. So I've already shown you the Spigen screen protector and the nano pop cases, but if you want something a little more hard-wearing, there's this rugged armor case. This is the case you want to use if you're traveling or need that extra protection as it's thicker and a lot more sturdy. It also has a nice matte black texture and carbon fiber details to it, which is nice. Then there's this hard shell carry case or the Claston case, and this is useful if you're traveling with the Switch or when it's not in the dock, as it protects both the console and you can store up to 10 games in here too. And we have the new Switch 2 Pro controller. So this is very similar to the original Pro controller, however this time the new C button for game chat and a big one, 2 rear mappable buttons. So we can now map the GL and the GR buttons to any other button on the controller. So we can use it for things like jumping or crouching in games, anything that will make your experience even easier or faster. Now this is something that we've had on other Pro controllers like SCUF, Xbox Elite and the PS5's Edge controller for years. So it was great to see that we finally have it on a Switch Pro controller. And we also have the new Switch 2 camera. Now this plugs into the top USB-C port and you'll be able to use it for video chat, game chat and other in-game features. Now at the time of making this, I didn't have any friends I could test the camera out with via the video calls. So here is a quick demo of how it's supposed to work. So this is a brand new feature on the Switch 2 where instead of relying on just your voice or text, you can now screen share, video call and party chat all while gaming at the same time. Quality wise it's okay, I mean it is only a 1080p camera and most of the time your shared video will be a tiny icon in the bottom of somebody else's screen. But it's cool that you're now able to chat with your friends like this if you wanted to. And one of the biggest new features that Nintendo have been marketing with the Switch 2 is definitely the new C button on the Joy-Cons. So this is a dedicated chat button that when you press it, opens up a game chat feature on the console. Essentially, it's a shortcut where you can either voice or video call with your friends, screen share and watch your friends playing their games. I actually think this is a great feature, and if you are someone who plays online with your friends, whether that's in the same game or different games, this is a nice way to chat with them at the same time. Remember, you can use the new camera with this and there is a built-in mic on the console itself, so you don't need another mic or a headset to chat. Now the chat feature is locked behind Nintendo Switch Online, the £18 a year subscription. However, game chat will be free until March the 31st, 2026. So you can use and enjoy this for the next 10 months before deciding if it is really worth the cost. Personally though, I think it is worth £18 a year as it comes with online play and a library of classic games like a Game Boy, NES and SNES as well as cloud game saves. And if you wondered how the Switch 2 compares to the original Switch consoles, well here we go. So I've got the launch day Switch here and the newer OLED version here. Overall, you can see that the new console is considerably larger than the other two. So the screen has gone from 6.2 inches to 7.9 inches, and that is a pretty big jump. Seeing the two side by side now really shows how much bigger the new screen is. And compared to the original LCD screen, well the new one is clearly better as it's more colourful and brighter. But comparing it to the OLED, it looks brighter but the viewing angles are definitely taking a slight hit. Bearing in mind though that the older ones are both 720p whereas the new one is 1080p. And as I turn this around you can see that the thickness of the two are basically the same. Only the trigger shape has changed where they are now, in my opinion, even more ergonomic. Now the question that you'll no doubt want to ask is it worth buying? Well, yes and no. If you want to play the new Mario Kart or any of the new ports like Cyberpunk and Hogwarts on a Switch, you want the best image quality and resolution on the Switch like 120Hz, HDR and 4K, and you like the idea of a bigger and better screen, all of these make it an easy yes. But if you've got no plans to buy the new games, you won't play it docked and you don't want a larger screen, you probably don't need this. For me though, it does everything the Switch can do but better and faster, and I won't lose any of my old games. But what do you think? Is the Switch 2 a worthy upgrade over the original? And will you be getting one this week? Well, I hope this was useful today. Now drop a nice Switch 2 in the comments, and I'll give you a thumbs up for staying right till the end. And if you did enjoy today's video, check out this video next. Well, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and follow me everywhere. Until next time.